live, and I am so thrilled to have you on, Melissa. For those who have hopped on and are paying attention here to our Mortgages and Mindset this Monday, I get the awesome pleasure of hanging out with Melissa, of course, virtually these days on a weekly basis. Melissa is a career transition coach, which, man, I can't imagine that there's not a huge need for exactly what it is that you do on the regular, Melissa, today, with unemployment numbers being what they are, and maybe people out there thinking, hey, maybe it's time that I look at transitioning into something else or getting back into the workforce. I know that's something that you work with regularly. Talk to us a little bit about, what does a career coach do?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Carrie, for having me. It's really fun to be here with you, and I love the new haircut.
Thank you.
So I spent a couple of decades working in HR prior to launching my own coaching business. And really, I think that career transition and change can be stressful, and it can be also a really great opportunity to figure out what it is that you want to spend so much of your time doing. Because as you probably know, we spend on average like a third of our lives at work. Yep. And so that's a lot of time. So for me, really spending time helping people get clear on what it is that they want to do in the world it's really rewarding. I tend to focus on people that are sort of mission driven, because I come from a nonprofit background.
Sure.
But I think at the heart, I think all of us have sort of a mission as to why we're here and what we care about. So for me, what I love doing is just helping people get clear on, what is their why? Like, why am I here and who am I? So sometimes, I don't know about you. I don't know if you've had like one career your entire life, Carrie.
Well, retail management and then mortgages for the last 24 years. So, yeah,
And it can, and that's great. And some of us get to that place where we find something we love and then we just run with it. And some people, I think, fall into a career for a variety of different reasons. And then they realize maybe when they hit, midlife, that's just not actually lighting them up, and they're pretty miserable. So I think accelerating that is really with what's happening, unfortunately, with COVID, and people are, concerned about losing jobs. Some are losing jobs, and they're having to sort of redefine what they want to do. So for me, I love helping people really figure out what that looks like, and then get tactical on how they can go out and actually find a new job. So whether that,
So talk to me about that, because legitimately, my mom back in the day, way back before I got into mortgage, pulled out the book, like, What Color Is Your Parachute? Yeah. And I'm sure, right, that probably rings a bell of, that's showing my age, as well as, she went through What Color Is Your Parachute when she actually got into mortgage lending. And I think that a lot of folks, at the end of their college career, you're meeting with a career counselor, or, you're going through and trying to figure out placement in the real world. How does that connect to, what does that process look like? How long does that take? How do you walk people through that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think for me, because I tend to work with more, I'd say, mid-level professionals or people that are sort of in the middle of their career versus maybe college kids just starting out, it's a little different, because typically the people that I work with, they already know, what they're good at. The challenge, I think, is that sometimes what we're good at burns us out. And just because we're good at something and we've been doing it for 10 or 20 years, it may not be the thing that we really enjoy. And sometimes people get stuck in that trap. So there's a lot of different assessments that people can do. I actually just ran across one today that is fantastic, and it's completely free. That's another thing I think about COVID, is there's a lot of resources out there for people that are looking to kind of, maybe make a change or just take some time. They maybe have a little more time sitting here in front of our computers and thinking about what they want to do. I ran across this new assessment, or new to me, called Standout Strengths. And it's based on the Strengths Finder is something people may be familiar with. And I've used that, and I've taken that myself. Standout Strengths goes, I think, even a little bit farther than that, and helping people really define not only what are you good at, but how can you market that? Like, how do you talk about that in interviews, and how do you talk about that on resume? So that was kind of a fun discovery for me today. Be happy to put that in somewhere so people can see where that is, because he's giving it away for free right now as a gift. So I thought that was kind of neat.
And it's called Standout Strengths.
Yeah, the gentleman's name is Marcus Buckingham. So I'll find that and put it in the chat.
He's written a lot of great books, I would say, right? I think, well, I've got several. I know I've got several on the bookshelf over there.
Yeah. I mean, he actually was one of the creators of the Clifton Strengths Finder. So he's just kind of taken it and evolved it to another place.
Yeah, that's great. First break all the rules and now discover your strengths, and then Strengths Finders, right? Like that whole series. They're percolating now as I'm thinking through it. But so talk a little bit more about what that, so doing some assessments maybe, and then, I mean, is it, like, I think of coaching, and of course, you know, in the world of mortgage where I have people that I coach, you know, we're getting on the phone and we're holding 30-minute or hour-long sessions. And I mean, what does that look like?
Absolutely. So in every client is different. I mean, I really create the coaching relationship based on, and you know, it's a very personalized process for me. But first thing I do is get on the phone with someone in a complimentary consultation call to really learn what are their goals, what are their challenges, how could I possibly help? Am I even the right person to help? I mean, it has to be, you have to have a rapport. And I completely feel that that's really an important part of the coaching process, is having that rapport with the person you're working with, and trust. So then after that first initial call, we decide if we want to work together. And in the past, pre-COVID, I've been doing this full-time a couple of years. I used to coach in my HR role, but actually having my own business for a little over 2 years. And in the past, I would only work with clients for 9 sessions or more, because best coaching practices tends to be that you can't really make a lot of progress before that, right? I mean,
Right.
It's a relationship, and there's going to be some stops and starts and some, you know, dips and highs, and as you're going through and figuring out your goals. So in the past, I would do a 9 session, start with an assessment, and then we do basically work for at least 3 months. And I have some clients that I have a client that's up in Oregon that I've seen. She's been working with me for pretty much since I started, and we only get together once a month. And she's like, Melissa, this is the only time I have to like get strategic with figure out what I need for my team. Right. And with her, it's really leadership coaching that I'm doing now. But back to your question. So since COVID hit in March, I decided, you know, I think that I need to really think about what I'm offering and how it's helping, and is it helping? And so I created a 3-session, what I'm calling a career kickstart package. Basically in response to COVID and the fact that wanting to be more accessible to people financially, wanting to not require such a big commitment when right now commitments
could be tough, right?
Right. I mean, we know sometimes it's like, we don't even know what's going to happen, you know, next week. Everything's pretty up in the air these days. So I do a 3-session career kickstart where I start with basically a values assessment. We get really clear on values and strengths, and then we talk about what your career goals are. What would you like to accomplish? Are you actively looking? Are you thinking of leaving? And then in the next 2 sessions, we really dive into what they need. So sometimes that could be perhaps looking at their LinkedIn profile and thinking of some ways we could optimize that. How could we get them more networked? Maybe they need to practice interviewing skills, or they need to talk about, you know, just what it is that they really want. So every client's different. And I just wrapped one up today with a woman up in Sacramento. And so I love it because while it's unique and that everybody is different, that's part of what I enjoy the most, I think, is really helping people see their value and what they bring to the market, even in a tough market, right? So, so through that process, I kind of give them a roadmap. It's definitely, we don't get it all done, but I give them, I give them a roadmap to say, you know, here's what we could do together, and here's where you go out from here. And then I partner with a really wonderful resume writer. She's terrific, and she does magic with resumes, and so that's someone that I can put people in touch with as well. Yeah. So that's been an interesting time.
Well, I think that the beautiful part about that is that all of us, no matter who you are, anybody listening, I know in our industry, I know many others, the reality of having to assess and adjust in today's day and age is it's a must. We've all got to do it. And I think, the really unfortunate part, and we've been talking about it week over week we have a separate partner call that we do for all of our partners in real estate and title and insurance and what have you. But we post unemployment numbers every week, right? And where things are at and pandemic unemployment. And I think there's just so much uncertainty. But if you're finding yourself in a place today where the reality is there is major uncertainty, you are without a job, you are having to look at career transition, or in a lot of the situations like you and I deal with on a weekly basis with the unfortunate situation of going through a divorce and having to re-enter the employment market today. You find yourself in a variety of different situations, and I think most people do, right? I mean, aren't there statistics around that, like people generally change careers how many times in their lives?
Definitely, I think the younger generations are definitely changing careers a lot more than perhaps our parents did. That's for sure.
Well, right. Like I take loan applications on a regular basis, right? And when somebody says, "Oh, I've been with the same employer for 15 or 17 or 19 years," I'm like, "Oh, wow." I'm surprised by it today because you just don't, not only not staying with the same employer, but, literally changing careers or going back to school in middle age for something entirely different. So there's a lot of that. What if somebody listening is finding themselves in that space and they're just trying to explore, like you said, maybe they're just like, ugh, I do not love at all what I'm doing. I'm burned out by it, or I need to, but I have no idea where to start. Where would you point them to start? What are the first, top of mind resources you would say, I would start with this?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. There's a lot of really good books out there. I mean, you mentioned What Color Is Your Parachute? That's certainly been around for as long as I can remember. And there's, I'm certain that it's still valid and helpful. A book that I really like is called Designing Your Life. And I think probably, I have like the workbook right here. So it's by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. And they also have a website with a lot of free resources, and it really talks about, the fact that when you think about it, we don't just have one path, right? We don't just have, there's all kinds of forks in the road. And thinking about like design thinking, what they do up in the Bay Area with when they iterate and create products, it's like you could go a lot of different ways. And I think especially right now, it's really important to kind of think like a design thinker. I love a lot of the tools in that book that kind of get you really out of your head and sort of working. I also say just, if you're thinking of hiring a coach, definitely talk to more than one. I mean, obviously all coaches that I know and that, will give you time with them free of charge, where you can explore kind of how they work. I think there's all kinds of groups out there too, like support groups on Facebook, different places where you could get support from your peers. I just think it's something that you definitely don't want to go through alone, whether it be finding a friend or a coach or just someone that's been through it before that you can talk to. And
Sure.
I think that people now, I'm very much a proponent of LinkedIn. I mean, definitely everyone needs to have a profile, just to keep track of your networks and really learn about your industry. And I think that's the best way to do that. So, getting on LinkedIn, and even if you feel like, well, I don't really have a lot to say about my professional background, I guarantee you that you have lots of things that you actually could say about, being a stay-at-home mom and the fact that you're in charge of your entire budget and household and you fundraise for, there's things you could say. And so I think getting involved in something like LinkedIn will help, boost confidence of someone that, especially that's been out of the workplace, and just getting into those conversations and learning more about companies that you might want to work for. It's a little bit of a scavenger hunt, really kind of trying to, and there's so much out there online, right? So much out there.
I love it. I hesitate to bring it up right now on a Facebook Live, but we just watched The Social Dilemma.
That's on my list. What'd you
Yeah,
think?
watch it for sure. But the reality of what is available out there, good, bad, and otherwise. I mean, there's information at our fingertips like never before, and some of the beauty of that is you can get different vantage points by looking at different social media channels and Googling and looking at YouTube and, following
Yeah.
the places that you might want to work and seeing a little bit of what's under the hood, right? I guess, after watching that, but prior to watching that too, I always go, grain of salt, right? Just
Right.
grain of salt with what it is you find. You never know who might be disgruntled or whatever, and just
Right.
offloading online. But I think that there's so much. I love it from a client perspective, from a potential partner perspective. Whatever. I'm constantly Googling people and taking a look at, all right, who is this person? Is this somebody that I want to work with? What's their, what they put out on social matters to me. How do they show up there? Are they out drinking every night and showing their, like legitimately?
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, Carrie, because that, it really is important. And thinking about what is your brand. I mean, we all have our own brand professionally and personally, and it's just the world we live in. And when you're thinking about either you're out of work or looking for work, you really want to get clear on what your brand is saying online, because people will be, Googling you, and hiring managers will be checking things out. So it's really important to take that time and think about, is your email still, lovestadisco@hotmail.com. I mean, I don't know how old your audience is, but
right.
Hotmail and Yahoo have been around a while, so you might want to change to Gmail. So things like that, just a little
right.
things like that. And the other thing about, I think there's a lot of really great learning resources out there right now too, as far as if you are thinking that you might need to up your skills in a certain level, or you're maybe thinking of, for the people in your industry, I'm sure there's things that they're maybe wanting to get better at that they could go out and find a free class on in just a few minutes. So it's a good
hundreds of them.
Yeah, I could work on my Excel skills.
Right. Well, so speaking to that end, as we work toward the bottom of the hour here, I guess I'm curious, because you brought it up earlier. If you're, working, you said you have somebody who's a resume builder or something to that effect, but if you're looking to stand out, because I assume this is part of your coaching, right? Particularly in a competitive job market like today, where maybe there are multiple people. I know several who have been interviewing for, a little bit higher level jobs, not entry level jobs, a little bit higher level jobs, that there are multiple applicants for the same job, and you're looking at standing out. Do you have a few tips that you might share with the listeners that you would suggest?
Yeah, I think I've already mentioned, just making sure that your LinkedIn profile is the best it can be, that your presence online is as it should be, and there's nothing out there that you would be like, oh gosh, I don't want that to be found by a recruiter or hiring manager. Definitely start there. Also, I feel like, it's really true. The statistics say that like something like 80 to 85% of positions are never even posted. It's like really through networks alone.
Yeah.
So, and it is kind of who and that can also sound discouraging. I know that. And I also think that you should be encouraged by the fact that it's so easy now to really get in touch with different people at different companies through networks like LinkedIn, or through people that you've worked with in the past. And, if you do, when you're looking at your LinkedIn profile and thinking about how can you improve it, one thing you could do that would really add a lot of value is getting recommendations. So thinking about people that you've worked with in the past, be it clients or vendors or, customers, depending on your business, that could say something about your work. And because at the end of the day, I mean, employers want people that, they can count on, and that not only have the skills and talents to do the job, but are really going to show up and be there and have integrity. or that's the kind of company that I want to work for.
Right.
Most of us do.
Most
so,
of us would desire those things. Yes.
Exactly, right. So having, having those references, recommendations on your LinkedIn profile could really speak volumes for that. And I have some templates I share with clients, and I would share with anyone here, just, easy ways to do that, to ask for those recommendations, because sometimes people get a little, oh, I don't really want to bother anyone, or I don't, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but you know what, we have to learn to really
what we have to do
that. And I think that people, especially now, are a lot more generous and wanting to help people out, because everyone knows that it can be a tough time.
Was there anything that I haven't asked you that you're like, hey, you know what, the listeners should hear this about career transition or coaching? Or
I think that I know that in my own life, I've made many career transitions, and I've had some challenging times. And I always, looking back, I'm always happy that it happened. And it's like it's hard to see it when you're in it, and it can seem really, scary, and the challenges that we're facing right now. I just have to believe that we're going to come out the other end of this and, have learned something, or otherwise it would be really hard to keep going every day and thinking what's next. But I think that really just having some self-compassion and being kind to yourself, we really can kind of be tough on ourselves, right? And so honestly, I mean, that may sound like really odd thing to say, but I feel like
not at all.
Just being compassionate towards yourself right now, and just recognizing that it can be difficult and it can be challenging. And there's also, people, I have clients that are interviewing and getting jobs, so there are people hiring out there. So don't give up, and just persevere, talk to people, right. Ask for help. You don't have to go through it alone.
Well, and I love that, surrounding yourself with compassionate people too, who are willing to be an ear, or be a voice of reason, or encouragement, support. I think that's important. And if you're in a position where you're thinking about it, you can consider it, and you can afford to hire somebody to help you through that process. I'll speak for Melissa hands down without question and say, I would personally hire her. So by all means, we will put your contact information in the Facebook Live post and out there on YouTube. But thank you so much for being with us and sharing tonight.
This was fun, and I'm glad my puppy didn't hop up again and, say hello.
Well, and we would have welcomed the puppy in any event, so it's all good. Well, thank you, Melissa. Have a great night, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.